Dr. Alex Mashilo is the South African Communist Party Central Committee member of Communications. He joins us now via Zoom. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. As a member of the Tripartite Alliance, it can't please you that the ANC seems to be fighting itself in many angles, and this one in particular with the suspended Secretary General saying that he will defy his party's resolutions.
Thank you very much, Peter. The resolutions of the African National Congress were adopted by the collective leadership of the ANC, not only responding to the internal challenges that the ANC has to overcome and the internal problems that it has to solve, but also responding to popular opinion of the masses out there. Earlier this year, you would be aware about this. There were ANC conferences in several areas across the country. The guidelines that the ANC had adopted then allowed those individuals who were charged, when nominated, to make themselves available, and a few individuals who were charged were actually elected by conferences. It was not the African National Congress, but a popular mass opinion that reacted against that. The ANC was compelled to listen to the people, following which it amended the guidelines giving effect to the implementation of its step-aside rule. So in other words, if you look at what is happening in the ANC in isolation from popular opinion by the masses there, it can be easy for an individual to conclude that I will win the ANC, and through the ANC, I will win the masses. Things are no longer like that. The masses have spoken. They reacted quite negatively to the ANC allowing those who were charged in the court of law standing at its conferences. So the ANC had to respond to that. If the ANC does not listen to the people on the ground, then the people will not follow the African National Congress. That trend, we can see it in the ANC's electoral performance. The last time the ANC performed very well was in the 2004 general elections. After that, the ANC has been declining and declining and declining as a result of a combination of two factors. On the one hand, the objective realities of unemployment, poverty, inequality, and the difficulties faced by many working class and poor families to support life itself in their households. On the other hand, because of problems within the ANC, and these problems, by the way, include the problem of corruption, of leaders who, when they are themselves meeting in their own meetings, do not trust one another, and as a result, they were not trusted by the masses. So it is now a thing of the past that an individual can contest and win leadership in the ANC and think that by winning the ANC, you will win society. Things have changed. The ANC, in order to lead the masses, it has to continuously earn the respect of the masses. It has to earn its leading role as the leader of society. Otherwise, nothing is permanent. To avoid that situation, the ANC has to work very hard to overcome the challenges that it is facing internally and that South Africans are facing. And as alliance partners, we are not going to stand aloof from this process of the organizational renewal of the ANC. We will continue working with the leadership of the ANC. As the SACP, we were scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting of our national office bearers and officials on Sunday evening. That meeting will now take place on Monday evening. I have no doubt that the leadership will reflect on this range of political issues And the SACP has already produced documents and statements that we are not going to stand aloof from this process. And like the masses of our people, we will not invest all our expectations in a positive outcomes in the renewal process, because this process is not taking place in a vacuum. It is obviously taking place here on earth where there is resistance. If the negative forces overcome the positive forces, we will have to retreat and chart a new way forward.
Mr. Mashilo, do you think that the onus then is on the various leaders not to wait to be told to step aside, but to perhaps take the higher ground and say, for the good of the party, even though I'm popular, I'm going to step aside?
For the ANC to emerge as the leading organization in our liberation movement, together with the SACP and the Progressive Trade Union movement at the far front, it had to demonstrate revolutionary moral superiority. In other words, our struggle for liberation and universal social emancipation was morally superior to the apartheid regime and its agenda. Even in this instance, the ANC now has to demonstrate moral superiority, and that is what its leaders will have to do. If you look at the case that the criminal complaint, by the way, in the clip that you played introducing this story, it was said that there were charges against the president. There are no charges. There is a criminal complaint laid at the police station. So in this instance, the president gave leadership. He came forward to say that he is going to fully cooperate with investigative authorities in the face of this possible investigation. In addition, the president said he does not want to wait for the ANC as Integrity Commission to invite him. So he invited himself to meet the Integrity Commission. He went further to say, if he is charged criminally in a court of law, he will respect ANC resolutions. And in this instance, his reference was to the step-aside resolution. That is what a leader should do. So leaders do not come together to collectively adopt decisions. As soon as these decisions apply to them, they then withdraw. That's not how leaders do. Leaders lead by example. And this example is what we can see President Cyril Ramaphosa trying to set under very difficult circumstances where others want to open parallel investigations, while in fact there is a credible process which the president said he is aware of and he is prepared to fully cooperate with.
Mr. Magashule is suggesting that there is political warmongering taking place here, that the NPA is part of a political game. Is that your belief?
We now have a lot of experience. In 2005, the President of the Republic, Thabo Mbeki, relieved Deputy President of his duties. The SACP and other organizations responded to that with mass mobilization. A decade later, the situation had changed. We are no longer involved in programs of defending individuals when credible processes are in place. The judiciary, the judges, the magistrates listening to these cases are not members of the NPA. The NPA has to argue its points. The judiciary will listen to what the NPA says on the one hand as the National Prosecuting Authority. They will then listen to what the defendants are saying on the other hand as the accused. And the judiciary will arrive at an independent determination, which itself is not immune from being appealed against up to the Constitutional Court. That process has to unfold. There is no way you can win a case or lose a case through a press conference. There are courts of laws in this country which are established in terms of our constitution.
Again, Mr. Magashule is suggesting that these delays are being done purposefully, but when one considers the average time that a court case takes place to unfold, he's probably going to get in quicker than most people.
Definitely. There are cases that are older than his, and by the way, I must say, although I'm speaking on behalf of the SACP, I personally worked with the Secretary General as the convener of the Alliance Secretariat. I do acknowledge his efforts. However, on this one, the law will have to take its course. If you are not satisfied about the conduct of the NPA, there are procedures in our legal systems that you should follow. So if you do not follow the procedures and you operate through press conferences, that might unfortunately not help you.
We've seen in the municipal elections and the lead up to those that there's a lot of infighting, sometimes bloodied, that takes place. Are you worried that in the current climate that we could see an escalation of infighting towards the national conference? Because the words that we're hearing almost sound like war words.
Definitely, we are worried. The Gauteng provincial chairperson, who is the premier of Gauteng province, Honorable Comrade David Makura, addressed the Ekurhuleni Regional Conference recently. He characterized it as like a war zone. Please allow me to use my language. Bare ntlole role ga itswale kgoshi. If the ANC is a war zone, there will be blood on the floor in the ANC. And whoever achieves victory, that will be Pyrrhic victory. It will be very useless. ANC comrades, leaders and members, as well as ANC alliance partners, must rally together behind the letter and spirit of the renewal of the ANC, and which will not be complete without the reconfiguration of the alliance. We are deeply, deeply, deeply worried. And in addition to what you have just said, by the way, people don't just beat one another there and assault one another. As we speak, there are families that lost their loved ones through the barrel of the gun in KwaZulu-Natal, in Mpumalanga province, and in some other areas because of the infighting taking place in the African National Congress. Today, there was a case postponed in Limpopo province, in the Waterberg region, Mogalakwena, of ANC members who were killed. We are deeply, deeply, deeply worried about all of these things. There is no way we cannot not be worried about them.
Mr. Mashilo, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. And let's hope that everything gets resolved peacefully. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Alex Mashilo, who's SACP Central Committee Member of Communication, and he was speaking to us about developments that are taking place within the ANC as they lead up to the national conference at the end of the year.